Well, we'll give it just a minute or two to see if some people join us. We are going with a live format here on the afternoon drive. My production schedule and my duties are just absolutely so jam packed. I needed a way to do things faster. And so, for the foreseeable future, we will be going to a live format. And I appreciate your understanding of that, which means the videos, rather than popping up every day around the between the 5 and 6 o'clock hour, it could be a morning, it could be an early afternoon. But I thank you in advance for understanding. That's why we're going to this format. Well, is it just California dreaming? Governor Gavin, I'm sorry. Let me start that all over again. You talk about having six things going on in your head at the same time. Let's do that again. Is it just California dreaming? Governor Gavin Newsom's name is being floated by Democrats and strategists that he should be the guy to replace Joe Biden. Now let's get really clear here. David Axelrod, a big Democratic strategist, obviously very big, very key during the Obama years, said recently that if Joe Biden decides not to run again, that it should be Gavin Newsom. You have newspapers like the New York Times floating headlines. Is David Axelrod poking the GOP bear? He's got all types of promos and commercials out there now where he is, quote, taking on the GOP. And a lot of media outlets, especially the ones in California, but a lot of media outlets are beginning to pay attention to this and saying, well, he keeps saying he doesn't want to run for the presidency, but he's giving all the signs, all the signals that, yes, in fact, he's running for the presidency. Does America really want the whole country to be like California? That becomes, of course, the big question. Now, I know what they're thinking. You know, it was just about, 9 months ago that Joe Biden had to go to California to campaign on Gavin Newsom's behalf. Why? Because there was the recall election going on, and Larry Elder was running against him. And it's interesting to note all of the outside money that immediately poured in. And of course, you got to understand that certain fractions within the Democratic Party really feel like that, Governor Newsom, he fended off a recall. Obviously, despite the fact that some people were upset, they really trust Gavin Newsom's leadership. And at the end of the day, they went in that voting booth and they voted for the guy that they knew needed to keep California heading in the right direction, and that was Gavin Newsom. Now, what they did was they absolutely thrashed, trashed, and did everything they could to character assassinate a good man in Larry Elder. Now, let me just say, from a personal standpoint, this is strictly me. This is my opinion. I think Larry Elder is a good man. I think he's a sharp man. I think he's an incredibly brilliant man. I think he does great political commentary. That does not translate into being a good candidate. I think he's a sharp guy. I think there are a lot of people that respect him. He's, done radio commentary, television commentary, does his own podcasts, etc. Incredibly knowledgeable and a strong conservative voice, and really has, I am sure, responsible for many people within the black community spending a lifetime thinking that, well, if we're going to get anywhere in life, we've got to have the Democrats to come alongside and help us, because the evil Republicans won't do anything for us. Then they see and they hear Larry Elder and they realize, wait a minute, maybe we've been aligning with the wrong party. It really does seem like that we've given our 40 60 years of loyalty to the Democrats, giving them the thumbs up for civil rights, when in reality, it was the Republicans who made that happen. It was the Republicans that are trying to create an economic environment to set us free, where Democrats want us living on their plantation. They want to be the housemaster. They want to stick us in government housing. They want to stick us in parts of the city that they can then kind of invisibly wall off as, quote, the ghetto, the hood, leave us there. And they only come into our neighborhoods every 4 years when it's time for a big national election. They promise us everything and they deliver nothing. And you have strong conservative black voices like Larry Elder that are able to go to black America and say, you're being lied to, you're being duped, you're being had. Larry Elder is a great guy. He is smart. I would challenge anyone on the left to go one-on-one in a debate with him. You will lose. But that didn't make him a good candidate. And of course, the media went all over, portraying Larry Elder as this radical. They even called him a white supremacist, a voice for the white supremacy. Can you give me a break? Seriously, Larry Elder? I mean, if a black candidate on the liberal Democratic side was called by the GOP a voice for the Ku Klux Klan, heads would explode. The media would call it the greatest outrage of personal attack and character assassination ever in the history of yada, 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 blah, 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 puke, blah. But of course, because Larry Elder happens to be a conservative, that automatically they make him an Uncle Tom without using those words, but that's what they're calling him. Because again, as Joe Biden said when he was running against Donald Trump, you ain't black if you don't vote for me. As if all black people are automatically supposed to just vote for Joe Biden, automatically supposed to vote for the Democrat. I mean, that's exactly how the Democrats see black people. And I've said this before and I will say it again. Democrats are by far and above the most racially prejudiced people on the planet, especially you bleeding heart white liberals. When you talk about fairness and equity, but I've noticed from all the liberals, especially the wealthy liberals, when a Joe Biden says you're going to pay your fair share. Really? Do you, Joe? I mean, you don't have an accountant who shelters you and protects your income? When all these Hollywood weirdos are lecturing us ad nauseum about, they're for the working man, they're for plight of the middle class, and we even make movies about it and we show how compassionate we are. So none of these Hollywood actors and directors and producers, etc., none of them have accountants who shield their money so that what? They don't have to pay a high tax rate. It's just such flaming lying hypocrisy. But Larry Elder was, of course, set up to be the villain. They just attacked. And it wasn't that Newsom is loved by the people of California. No, nay. Even most Democrats who live in California, very frustrated with how California works, or I should say, doesn't work. I mean, Bill Maher complaining on his TV show that it took him 3 years to finally be able to connect his solar panel because of what he had to go through to build a shed and how big it had to be and where it had to be on the property and all to house one panel board that's responsible for the solar power, the solar panels on his house. And he's said in frustration, he said, I live in a state where they push, they encourage, they almost demand that you go green energy, and then they make it impossible for you to do that, and they years of bureaucratic red tape. And I mean, Bill Maher has lamented about this. We can't even build, 5 miles of train track that doesn't cost $100 billion. We can't solve the housing crisis for the homeless because, again, it costs $150 million to build a 4-unit apartment building, for the it's just the bureaucracy, the corruption, the graft. It's off the charts. It's outrageous. Illegals get everything free, and everybody who's there legally pays for it with tax on top of tax. That's why people in California are paying $9 a gallon, because over $3 a gallon for gas in California are state taxes. And why? Because everybody's leaving California. They've lost their tax base. They've lost businesses. They've lost residential tax base. It's gone, and it's gone. Even though their population numbers may stay high, that's because they declared themselves a sanctuary state. That means they have said to everything and everybody, come on in, literally dump on us. I mean, no, literally. In San Francisco, drop your pants in the street, take a dump right in front of somebody's store. It's okay. You won't be arrested. We'll even let you live there if you want to. You can lick the drugs off the sidewalks here. We're good with that. And if you live and work in San Francisco, please remember to hang a sign in your car asking people not to give you San Francisco snow. Do you know what San Francisco snow is? Well, apparently it's like the big thing in San Francisco now. You can't park your car anywhere without having somebody come by and bust out all the windows. And so people now are leaving their windows rolled down and their glove boxes open, and they are hanging signs in their car windows. I have nothing of value in this car. Please don't break my windows. Because obviously this is the land of Nancy Botox Pelosi and Gloria Frankenstein and all of the defund the police and protest against the police, and they're mostly peaceful protests of burning their cities down, etc., etc., etc. And this is what they've turned California into. And Gavin Newsom has gone along with all of this. Gavin Newsom, who put his state almost in permanent lockdown and under just absolutely egregious mandates during the pandemic, and he really went hot and heavy after churches. I have a pastor friend in California who was fined $5,000 a day for going to his office. It was just him. And maybe, a secretary or a couple of the associate pastors. He abided by the, don't have a service and have people in order. He did it all live stream, but he going to his church every day to work in his office. No. John MacArthur was the first pastor in California to really take the bull by the horns and say, we're not going along with this anymore. And he opened his church. He didn't do any social distancing. And I mean, they tried to go after him hot and heavy. They posted police cars in his parking lot. They kept track. And now, John MacArthur and I differ slightly in some theological areas when it comes to the doctrine of Calvinism. And because I am a born-again Christian from what you would call the Baptist viewpoint on Scripture, I believe that Christians, we trace our roots and our heritage, obviously, to the apostles of Jesus Christ, and that the true Church of Christ was never part of Rome. Dr. MacArthur, on the other hand, is a strong Reformationist. That's fine. And I love what he did his very first Sunday, that he had 5,000 people back into his auditorium. He walked out and he said, "Welcome to our mostly peaceful protest." And everybody cheered and applauded. And he said, reformers are the original protesters. It is from the name protest that we get the word Protestant. It was the protesters, the Protestants, who protested the Roman Catholic Church. They broke free. They were the original protesters. So John MacArthur, that was a brilliant move that he did, but he was being fined hundreds of thousands of dollars for being open, conducting services, and of course flaunting it by broadcasting it on television. That's the state of Gavin Newsom. The state that will strip you of your rights, strip you of your freedom of expression, your freedom to gather, your freedom to protect yourself. But they will allow street games to just roam unmolested. Do we really want that nationwide. Can you imagine a Gavin Newsom presidency? It would make us long for Joe Biden. I kid you not. I mean, if your agenda is the complete destruction of the United States, then Gavin Newsom is the guy. On the one hand, the liberals, they love to talk about we need the green new energy, and that means we'll just pull the plug on fossil fuel, and we know there'll be pain at the pump, but it's make it worth it in the end, and that's a Joe Obama talking point. Yet at the same time, they know they're getting killed politically over this. So they are trying to back off, and they're trying to figure out what to do now. And of course, everything they come up with is another train wreck and a disaster. So I understand that Democrats, as they watch Joe Obama's numbers continue to drop, they know they need somebody else. And it ain't going to be Kamala. I told you, if you would just listen to me back during the 2016 election cycle, you could have spared yourself all this grief. I told you that Camilla thinks she's a hottie Harris, an absolute dipwad, dunderhead, dillweed, know nothing. And now you found that out. And I can tell you this, if they don't run Joe Biden again, they're not running Kamala. So it could be Gavin Newsom, get ready. The Supreme Court today gave us another Second Amendment rights victory. And of course, Joe Biden's not happy about it. In a statement, since 1911, the state of New York has required individuals who would like to carry a concealed weapon in public to show a need to do so for the purpose of self-defense and to acquire a license. More than a century later, the United States Supreme Court has chosen to strike down New York's long-established authority to protect its citizens. That is such absolute bullhock, and it's a lie, and Joe Biden didn't write that. Some staff member wrote that for him. First of all, Joe Biden doesn't have the cognitive ability to structure sentences like that. All you have to do is watch him give a speech or do an interview, and he gets into the middle of answers, and then he said, well, let me say it this way. Jimmy Kimmel had to carry him through that interview that he did with Jimmy Kimmel just a couple of weeks ago. And it was embarrassing. And, Biden talking about, we have hope. No matter how bad things are in this country right now, we have hope because we have biracial couples in TV commercials now. I mean, everybody was looking at each other like, what? Wait, what? The United States Supreme Court, basically, the judgment went this way. If a citizen wants to avail themselves of their Second Amendment right to conceal and carry, they have a right to do so without arduous, unfair limitation. Now, it's interesting to note, Joe Biden said there that since 1911, New York has had a law on the books that if you wanted to have a concealed carry, you had to be able to provide your reasons for doing so for your self-defense. Well, see, that's the problem. That's why what started this whole problem to begin with. It was a gun rights advocacy group in New York which brought this suit to begin with, which ended up before the Supreme Court. Because, see, apparently when you go, and I do know a little something about this. When I was a kid growing up in New York, my dad was a licensed gunsmith and a gun dealer in the People's Republic of New York under Xi Jinping, Mario Cuomo. That was not an easy thing to do. And I mean, getting your gun permit, getting a gun license in New York was incredibly difficult. So New York has always made it difficult to be a licensed gun owner of a handgun, because that was back in the days when handguns were the evil that we had to rid the world of. Now it's AR-15s because they think AR stands for assault rifle, which it doesn't. But that's another topic for another day. Every state where you do a concealed carry, you fill out an application, you take a training course, and they do obviously a criminal background check on you. Well, New York, when you fill out the paperwork, This was the problem. If your purpose for wanting to carry was for your own personal protection, self-defense, that was an automatic fail. That was not a good enough reason. That's why this suit was brought to begin with. So when Joe Biden says that people who want to protect themselves just simply need to fill out a permit and the Supreme Court has done away with that. No, no, no. That's not what the Supreme Court did. No, nice lie there, Joe boy. What the Supreme Court did was say, yeah, if somebody wants to carry this for the purposes of self-defense, that is a good enough reason for them to be granted a permit to carry, providing they pass the background. Yes, that's a good reason. But see, in New York, the way it was, no, no, no. You have to prove, like, are you a celebrity? Are you a person of importance? Are you like a gemologist and you are carrying on your person a bag of diamonds worth $1 million, that you might need to carry a gun to protect that? Are you somebody important? Are you retired law enforcement? Are you off-duty law enforcement? See, you had to be in a special category to get this. And what the Supreme Court said was no. The right to keep and bear arms is a right granted to all legal U.S. citizens who are not criminals. Therefore, your laws must work accordingly. And Joe Biden then said that this now limits New York's ability, I love this, to protect their citizens. He's acting as if what the Supreme Court said was, hey, criminals, you can conceal. Oh, wait, they already do that. You know why? Because criminals never go fill out any paperwork to buy a gun. They never fill out any paperwork to carry a gun. I promise you, street gangs doing drive-by shootings, none of them are carrying a permit. You know why? Because they ain't gonna. Even if the Supreme Court said, we're just, anybody who fills it out, no matter how awful of a human being you are, we'll just give it to you. They're not going to do that. What this law does is actually protect the citizens of New York. It now allows the average citizen to be able to have protection on them so that when there's mugging and attempted rapes and worse, they now have a way to protect themselves. It is amazing how Democrats, liberals, lie, twist, and what you're seeing, they're telling you you're not seeing. For example, the same people so outraged over what happened on a particular day in January for 8 months didn't care anything about the mostly peaceful protests. Now all of a sudden they're outraged over the fact that there was an attempted coup and overthrow of our democracy. With a straight face, can you look at me and tell me, even as you watch those images, the video images of that day, did you really think in that moment our democracy was going to just go away? Didn't at first you wonder, well, why did the Capitol Police let it get to that level? And if you had all of these, as the intel community tells us, though you had all this inside information and we knew this was going to go down, well then, where was the proper precautions taken other than those, to me they look like bicycle racks, that fencing, that in a lot of places the police just open it up and welcome the people on in. Only in one scene do we have where there was pushback, and the person that led that pushing, who himself didn't breach or go in, has never been questioned by the FBI, though he was out there the day before going up to every group he could saying, tomorrow we need to go in, we need to go in. Ray Epps. Where is Ray Epps? He hasn't been brought before this committee. Can you say deep state setup? Just like Uvalde? Wait, whoa, hey, wait, Pastor, where are you going with that? Well, Now that we know the police were ordered to stand down, and the police on the scene did not want to stand down. They knew there were kids in that building. They wanted to go in. Why were they ordered to stand down? Why are they working so hard to make sure that people can't see the documents and the verification of that they've hired a law firm now to protect them? Wouldn't you like to know the political ideology of the sheriff? Because again, was this an opportunity for a gun grab? Having the police stand down so that we could just show images on top of images and have all these kids dead and get an actor like Matthew McConaughey to come here and with a tear-jerk emotional reaction and have celebrity athletes and celebrity coaches be upset and say they won't come out for the national anthem and blah, 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 unless we confiscate the guns. Well, Pastor, I think you're taking this a little over the top. Am I really? The longer this Uvalde thing drags on and the more information that trickles out, it's not looking good. In fact, all of these so-called gun laws they're talking about wouldn't have stopped this since they wanted it to happen. And mark it down. Bitch McConnell and the GOP rhinos, they are in this up to their eyeballs. These hearings are about making sure that the true people's candidate, Donald Trump, never gets to run again. And it's to make sure that you know your place and you will follow mandates. And if we tell you you don't have a right to protect yourself, you don't. One of the greatest accomplishments of the Trump presidency was who he got on that Supreme Court. You ought to thank God for that every single day. On the one hand, we're told by the energy secretary, the president doesn't have any control over gas prices. Then he comes out and says, I'm going to give you a break on taxes on gas. Well, wait, I thought you didn't have any control over it. You turned off a pipeline, you shut down oil exploration. We haven't built a refinery in this country since 1970, but you don't have any control. We go around the world, we beg everybody else for oil, but hey, we're going to be green energy here. By the way, there was something else I was right about. Remember I said at the very beginning of the Ukraine conflict that it was a proxy war and we were being virtue signaled into putting out our blue and yellow flags and stand with Ukraine. We find out that Zelensky, Karpinski, whatever ski is just as vile and evil as Putin. Because I am not defending Putin. This is a civil war. This has been a long time coming. But here's the issue. American corporations began to virtue signal. We're pulling out of Russia. We will not do business with Russia anymore. And I asked the obvious question. Hey, American Express, Discover Card, PayPal, all you institutions like that were doing business in Russia, and now you're not going to do business there anymore. What about the millions, if not billions of dollars of debt that have been accumulated by the Russians? Who pays you back for that? I.e., you and me, that's who. There are reports coming out now in the Washington Post and other news outlets that behind closed doors, the Biden administration is pushing American corporations to continue working with Russia, to keep doing business in Moscow. On the one hand, they're talking about we got to overthrow Putin, we got to crush this. This is an illegal war. No, bullhock. The arms manufacturers are making a killing. The military-industrial complex, they got what they want. Biden can try to blame our economic woes on sanctions, and there's some truth to that. Not because we're crippling Russia, but because we're crippling ourselves, because the Russian economy is doing great. The ruble's trading higher than the dollar because Russia and China got together, and now we've had to go begging Russia for grain, for fertilizer. And part of that deal, I'm sure Putin, who's a much better strategist than checkers player Joe Biden, has said, fine, but American business come back to Russia. American business come back to Russia. And so the Biden administration wants McDonald's and American Express and everybody else to go back to doing business with Russia. Hey, Ben Stiller, didn't you just go to Ukraine and come back and say, what an awesome guy Zelensky is, we need to crush We got a Supreme Court victory across the nation now. States will have to allow people to conceal and carry. Gavin Newsom would be an absolute disaster as president. Worse than what we've got now, by far. And that's scary. Because, see, what we got now is a proxy president. We have a guy who got installed by the powers that be to carry out the status quo agenda on one level and placate to the loons on another level. Gavin Newsom already agrees with all of that ideology, and he will be all in. And he does have a little bit more charisma and personality to stand there like a Justin Trudeau as he's stripping his nation of gun rights and locking up every truck driver. Can you imagine if another pandemic hits? If Gavin Newsom were president, what we would go through? By the way, Joe Biden said yesterday, we need more money for the next pandemic. Are they planning one already? Because this one didn't quite go like they had hoped. You know why? Because voices like this and outlets like this sounded the alarm, and we did what we had to do to get the truth out, even as we were being muzzled and censored and being deplatformed. Well, I've given you enough to think about for today. I want to thank you so much for tuning our way here on a live afternoon drive. And this will be the format for a while. So again, please tell your friends about it. Make sure you help us please grow, because we know YouTube isn't going to do that for us. This will be transferred to Rumble later. Help us grow Rumble. Please go to Rumble. There'll be links below. Please go to Rumble, because there might come a day you come here and I am just no more. And if you want to hear me continue to pontificate, I do pontificate on Rumble, also over at Truth Social. I'm just getting started there, but help me build my numbers, build my audience on Rumble. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you next time.